Now, with Kenya almost clocking 2 years since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the country in March of 2020, calls have been made to have as many Kenyans vaccinated as possible, with the Ministry of Health having a target of vaccinating 10 million people by the end of 2021. Now, we have more than 5 vaccines in the country, but of course the big question remains, how many Kenyans are turning up to get vaccinated? And has vaccine apathy affected this target to vaccinate 10 million people by the end of 2021? Well, today we speak to Dr Willis Akhwale, who is the national chair, and that is COVID-19 task force, to get answers to these questions.
I must say that from sometime in August, we've seen an improvement in the uptake of vaccines. We've seen, like, one day in August we did 100 vaccinations per day, 100,000 vaccinations per day. Last week we did 91,000 per day. We are seeing uptake now on average 60 to 80,000 per day. So we've been seeing improvement, but this is not the same across the country. We are seeing uptake, especially like in Nairobi, in Kiambu, Nyeri, Nakuru, and surrounding Machakos. Uptake is good. But we are seeing some densely populated counties like Kakamega, Homa Bay, where the uptake is not as good, yet they have huge population. And then we have the counties in the arid and semi-arid regions in northeastern Kenya. Again, there has been a slow uptake. So you can say therefore there's a variation.
Do we have like vaccines that a lot of people are running for compared to the others?
It is true that we've got reports where people look at Johnson & Johnson being single dose, that's what they would prefer, that you are vaccinated once and that is done. That seems to really be a kind of favorite to a lot of Kenyans. Yes, at the time it's registered as a single shot, but remember, if you follow what is happening in the US and Europe, they talk of a booster shot. So if the only reason you are looking for Johnson is single shot, I don't think you will still have another shot.
With Johnson & Johnson proving to be the most preferred vaccine, is it any different from the other 2-shot vaccines? Professor Walter Jaoko, Director, KAVI Institute of Research, breaks it down.
No, there isn't a difference. Just we need to know that the design of the vaccines are different. And this is nothing new. You are aware there are some antibiotics you are told to take 3 times a day. There are some antibiotics you're told to take twice a day. There are some you take once a day. So you cannot have a standard way of taking medicine just because one person makes it his or her medicine to be in a particular way. So the reason that some vaccines are given twice, others are given once, is the way the vaccine was designed. And when you give that vaccine, you measure the immune responses it has generated, and you find it has generated sufficient responses. You don't need a second dose. The ones that you're seeing given twice, you give the first dose, it's called a prime. It makes the body ready for something called a boost. So then the initial immune response are not enough, but then when you give the second dose, it then boosts the initial immune response, and then now you get sufficient immune responses. Now, the reason why people are preferring the Johnson & Johnson is just the convenience. It has nothing to do with how effective the vaccine is. It's just that it is more convenient. Once I'm given one shot, I'm not thinking about coming back again.
With over 5 different types of COVID-19 vaccines being available in the country, the question as to whether they are safe or not remains a very big debate among so many Kenyans, given that it took a very short time to manufacture the vaccine. So is this an issue? Is time a factor when it comes to the efficacy of a vaccine?
When you think about COVID vaccine, is based on research we know about coronaviruses. Now, the first coronavirus that affected human beings was in 2012. So from 2012, we have had a lot of information about coronaviruses. So people have had research into trying to develop vaccines against viruses. So by the time COVID-19 came, there was a lot of information. So there wasn't, we were not starting from scratch. So the issue that people talk about the vaccines having been developed too quickly is not really true. The other thing is that no step in the testing of these vaccines has been skipped. Whenever you develop a vaccine, you start with animals, you test it in animals. All the vaccines that you're seeing being used in human beings were tested in animals. And it's only the vaccines that are found to be safe in animals that are then tested in human beings. And in human beings, we test them through 3 phases, which we call the clinical trials. So phase 1 is on safety, to ensure that the side effects that you saw, that they were minimal in animals, are also still minimal in human beings. Then phase 2 is to show that the vaccine is producing the responses you want it to produce in terms of immunity. And then phase 3 is where you ask yourself the question, is this vaccine actually protecting people? That is what is called efficacy trials. Now, all the vaccines have gone through those phases, so nothing has been skipped.
So for COVID, is it a matter of urgency that, let's say, so much resources was put into the same so that we had a vaccine?
There are many reasons. You see, the thing that people should understand is that diseases are different. So you cannot compare one disease to another one. That in one disease, so if it takes 20 years to get a vaccine in one disease, it has to take 20 years to get a vaccine in another disease. It doesn't work like that. These germs that cause disease are very different. So when you compare, first of all, there are bacteria, there are viruses. The viruses amongst themselves are very different. HIV virus is completely different from coronavirus. So it's not possible to say that development of a vaccine must take this period of time. There's some much easier germs to deal with, but there's some that are too complicated. So if you look at Ebola virus, for example, it only took maybe a year and a half to get a vaccine. HIV has taken a long time. Malaria vaccine has taken even much longer. It's only now that we have the first malaria vaccine that is still not even perfect. So we cannot equate length to diseases. It's just like even in antibiotics, you get some conditions that you have antibiotics that work effectively. There are some conditions you don't have antibiotics that work. So the key thing for listeners and viewers is that diseases are different. You can't equate one to another.
Yeah. Aside from misconceptions, vaccine apathy remains to be a big challenge as well, to which Dr. Akhwale says,
it's of course unfortunate that social media, some people peddled misinformation and disinformation on the same, which starts becoming a bad for our program, because then some people tend to listen to what is being put there, and they may make the wrong decision not to be vaccinated. There's the other thing about apathy, which we are addressing also, is convenience. In fact, in the early stages of Kenya's vaccination program, you realize we are using 1 or 2 hospitals per county, and some counties are very big. So somebody thinking, how do I take a bus, drop, go, queue up, wasn't going to be feasible. So to address that, you must then address what you call geographical access. And that's why we are increasing our vaccination costs. Actually, currently, we are trying to ensure 4,000 facilities are now operational against 800 which were there in August. Now, with 4,000, then it means people will easily walk, get their vaccines, and it becomes convenient to them. So these 2 factors should be considered whenever you are addressing apathy.
With countries rushing towards fully vaccinating its populations, developed nations have been warned against hoarding. So is it time for Africa to start producing its own vaccines?
If you heard His Excellency the President on Mashujaa Day, Kenya is now on the path to produce its vaccine through strategic partnerships. Physical location has been identified. So that will be more sustainable. We will go that way, but remember the issue of vaccine, the complexity is in the active ingredient of the vaccine, which may be made of very many products. What the global world needs to do is to waiver the patents. Because even if we put up factories but we can't get the ingredient, then we will not have the vaccine. So waiver on patents must be where now the global community should really be addressing.
In my view, it will take a long time before we get a vaccine, but I don't know what the president had in mind, because there are different ways of doing it. You can also have vaccine that is only assembled here. It is made by a drug company outside there, and then you come, you bring it here, and you can reconstitute it here. That you can do as soon as tomorrow. But the idea of making our own vaccines, starting from concept, designing the vaccine, testing it in animals to see whether it is safe, and then only moving to human beings once that vaccine has been found to be safe in human beings, and then testing it to do what you call phase 1, to look for its safety, then testing it to see whether it is immunogenic, that is, it's producing the desired immune response, then testing it to see whether it is effective. I don't see us doing it next year.
And with all these challenges, will the Ministry of Health achieve its vaccination target set for 2021 and 2022?
It is going to happen. We are on course. Currently, we are at 5.2 million vaccinations. Of course, we had a slow start because of the issues, but there's been a marked improvement in September and coming to October. What I can say is that our target is 10 million vaccinations by December, administered, but full vaccination of 26 million people by the end of next year. So it's important to note that, and therefore we are now at beyond 5. What we are seeing is that even the first dose uptake has increased. Now we are around 3.6 million. So if in the next month or so 2 million of people who are due for their second dose turn up, then we are at 7 million. But then we must continue mobilizing people to come for the first doses. So I see us almost getting that target. I'm optimistic. But it is not going to be only government effort. It is going to be also individual effort. People must look at vaccination as first and foremost their own health. Without a vaccine, and with all these variants coming, and with these unpredictable cycles, I don't know how a responsible person would be sitting and feeling that they are safe in their homes.
To date, more than 3.7 million people have been partially vaccinated, while 1.7 million others have been fully vaccinated.